later on. I want to just switch gear a bit for a moment, Lordo, and talk about your beloved Bombers. I'm worried about Essendon. A lot of things you're seeing and reading and hearing out of Essendon that concern me. And this on the weekend from the new chairman, Paul Brasher, did nothing to allay my fears.
Because I think that there are some things, some of them subconscious, which have continued to influence us as a result of the supplement saga. Is it possible that in the years that followed, when they came back, that we perhaps felt guilty about what had happened to them, and as a result went a little bit soft in pushing them for the best possible performance? Don't know.
Now, before I get to you, Matthew and Cara, why would you say that? I mean, I know first-time chairman...
Well, at least if you asked the question, I think he needed to answer it. I don't know.
I know first-time chairmen are not famous for their wonderful entries into the game, but to raise, even if you thought that they were too soft, even if we've alerted her on the show, Carl Hooker, longer years, and why would, when you've got a fragile playing group anyway, and we'll come to the Bell Chambers incident, why would you put that back on the public agenda and not move into a new era with a new chairman? I thought it was a really odd start.
Particularly when he still wears the scars of that drug scandal because he was on the board at the time. He's there partly, I think that Xavier Campbell wanted a new chairman, and I feel that is part of the reason Xavier Campbell stayed. There was going to be a handover, and Lindsay Tanner in the end was not seen as a dynamic enough president. Well, not a great start by Paul Brasher, was it?
Yeah, I've never met Paul before, Hutchie, and that's the first time I'd even laid my eyes on Paul Brasher. But I think what he is just saying there, what has gone around, that the contracts you touched on, maybe giving players more opportunities than they would have got otherwise.
He didn't have to acknowledge that.
Maybe he's looking to acknowledge it, and then from this point on, we're moving on and we're going to make harder decisions, or they are, as a football club, more so than they have in the past.
It fed into the players who were in that era and how they would exit the club. And I think one of the great misreads of the year was Tom Bell Chambers' exit. I heard you talk about it a little bit last week as well. If Ben Rutten seeks to win that group of people over and show empathy, compassion, and build trust among them, how could you possibly misread the cues on that? Is he not in touch with that playing group and what Bell Chambers meant to them, or did he just was his hard nosed despite himself at the end? Because it was a galling error.
Yeah, I agree. Some will say, who do these senior players think they are? They've dropped their bottom lip. But in this situation, watching what Piopolo, I know he's a premiership player, in Stratton, but with nothing on the line for a player that they've loved and what he's been through at the footy club, Bell Chambers, losing a year to his footy and that, they owed Tommy Bell Chambers that last
The feeling is that Ben Rutten didn't feel he was a player necessarily worthy of
That's a misread.
gifted game.
Even just to get the morale of the rest of them up over the summer.
I think by the end of the week they realised it was a misread, but it was far too late, and hope it doesn't linger on with other players over the off-season, Hutch.
Adam Saad has become a big one. Now, explain this to me. How do you spend an inordinate amount of time attracting a player like that to your club? It was a great piece of recruiting at the time. He stays for that contract and then he potentially wants out. In essence, he's saying, if he doesn't stay, that he picked the wrong club. I mean, that's an indictment on your culture if you can't keep him.
Yeah, but I think that happens everywhere, Hutch. I think Stephen May and Lever would be asking questions around what they were sold at times. I think it's hard to label that just on Essendon because every club would be in that situation.
Yeah, it happens. I think that's being a bit harsh.
I don't think it is. I think it's a reflection of where they're at.
It is a reflection of where they're at, but they're not alone in that case.
And Merritt? Like, he's second-guessing clearly whether he
it's
stays.
A big 12 months for the Essendon Footy Club to, get their act together, to not lose more players.
Are you any closer to having your tip as who will be captain next year?
Well, I think Heppel.
You think Heppel will keep it?
Yeah.
You feel that there's still a bit of off-field dissension there.
Are they capable of making some tough off-field calls? Like, they've dodged the hard off-field calls to this point. They had a soft decision on the Worsfold transition rather than make the hard call. There's clearly some off-field issues.
What do you think needs to happen, Archie? What are you talking, the head of football? Are you talking to the CEO?
They've got to look at all those areas, football, recruiting and development. There's a recruiting issue, development issue, or both, and there's a footy department issue somewhere, and they've got to diagnose that. I don't think they can...
Are you talking about Dodoro, Daniel Richardson? Who are you talking about?
I don't know. There's an issue in there somewhere, isn't there? It is not cohesive, that footy club at the moment. And then the further thing the chairman went on to say was around the game plan, and this was also interesting.
There has been a lot of discussion about our game style. What I will say is that we are not interested in having a game style and a playing list that allows us to limp into the finals and then go out in the first week.
I wondered at that point, is he having a go at John Worsfold? Because they limped into a final series against West Coast Kane a couple of years ago. But what I will say, Ben Rutten's been at the club for 2 years now, and while it wasn't a premiership winning game style that John Worsfold had, they still won 11, 12 games of football, which we haven't seen in the past year or so.
And it was attractive to watch, wasn't it? I mean, what's the reason for Essendon fans to turn up and watch their footy club play? They can't score, and their defensive system was broken at times this year. So I have yet to see anything in the last 2 years, as you say, since Carousella and Rutten have been there, that gives me any optimism that they do have a game plan that can win them a final or even a premiership.
A bit like the drug scandal for me. Why even bring up that flipping game style?
Yeah.
I'm sick to death of it. Stop talking about the game style and play a game and win.